At 5 years past the moment his marriage officially ended, Ethan Walker believed he had learned how to close doors without looking back. He believed time had done its quiet work, sanding down sharp edges, turning heartbreak into something manageable. That belief shattered the instant he stepped into a softly lit jewelry store and realized the past was not faded at all. It was standing 10 feet away from him, breathing, blinking, wearing a name tag that read Clare. The store itself felt unreal, like a carefully designed dream. Everything gleamed. Glass counters reflected rows of diamonds arranged with surgical precision. The lighting was warm, forgiving, meant to make imperfections disappear. The air carried the faint scent of leather and expensive perfume, the kind of place Ethan once avoided when money was tight and hope felt fragile. Now, he walked in with steady steps and a calm bank balance. His business had finally stabilized after years of grinding. He owned a modest house with a backyard where his daughter chased fireflies in the summer. He slept without the constant fear of bills piling up. Tonight, he was here for a reason that felt like proof of how far he had come. He was buying an engagement ring. As he moved slowly along the display cases, Ethan reminded himself why he was here. He was doing the right thing. His girlfriend had been patient, gentle, and kind in ways that made him believe second chances were real. She loved his daughter without trying to replace anyone. She loved him without asking him to be someone else. Choosing a ring felt like choosing a future, one built on lessons learned and mistakes not to be repeated. He stopped at a ring that felt right, simple, elegant, quietly confident. The diamond caught the light without shouting for attention. He imagined it on her finger, imagined her smile, imagined a life that didn't feel like survival anymore. When he told the sales associate he'd take it, he didn't hesitate. That alone felt like a victory. But victory is fragile when the past hasn't finished speaking. At the counter, while paperwork was prepared and the ring rested in his jacket pocket, Ethan looked up and saw her. Clare, his ex-wife, the woman who once accepted a cheap ring and stayed anyway. The woman who had believed in him when belief was the only currency they had. Time slowed in that moment. Claire's hair was shorter now. Her posture was straighter, more guarded. She looked older, not in a way that diminished her, but in a way that told a story of endurance. When their eyes met, recognition passed between them like a silent agreement. No anger, no warmth, just the undeniable weight of shared history. They spoke like strangers who knew each other too well. Polite words, controlled expressions, professional smiles that masked old wounds. Ethan placed the ring box on the counter, and Clare handled it with practiced efficiency. But when she congratulated him, the words carried a quiet ache that settled deep in his chest. As he watched her hands move, memory rushed in without permission. Late nights, shared laughter over cheap takeout, the way she used to tuck their daughter in while humming softly, the night he proposed with a ring he could barely afford, and the way Clare smiled like it was the most precious thing she'd ever seen. She hadn't married the ring, she married the promise. Somewhere along the way, that promise broke. Not loudly, not dramatically. It eroded slowly under stress, exhaustion, and silence. Neither of them had been villains. They had simply stopped fighting for each other, while fighting everything else. Standing there now, successful, steady, and holding a ring meant for another woman, Ethan realized a truth he had avoided for years. He had moved forward, but part of him had never truly moved on. When Claire handed him the bag and told him congratulations again, he felt it like a farewell he wasn't ready for. Outside, the cold night air burned his lungs. He stood on the sidewalk, staring through the glass at the woman who once felt like home. The ring in his hand was worth more than he used to make in months, yet it felt heavier than anything he'd ever carried. He didn't leave right away. Inside the store, Claire worked through the rest of her shift on autopilot. She told herself she was fine. She told herself she had known this day would come. But seeing Ethan with that ring reopened questions she had buried under responsibility and routine. She hated that it hurt. Hated that part of her still remembered the man he used to be before life wore them down. When Ethan returned to the store and asked to see a simple bracelet, Claire knew what he was doing before he said a word. She wanted to refuse, wanted to protect herself from meaning that no longer had a place. When he slid the bracelet back to her and said it was for her, something inside her cracked. She refused it, not out of pride, but out of survival. She told him to go home, to choose the future he was building. And in that moment, Ethan finally understood something that had taken him years to see. Moving on didn't mean pretending the past didn't matter. It meant honoring it without letting it dictate who you become. He left the store with both bags in his hands, heart heavy but clear. That night, Ethan didn't propose. He sat alone and told the truth instead. About the past, about the unresolved feelings, about the need to pause rather than rush into a promise he wasn't fully ready to make. It was the hardest conversation he'd had in years, but it was also the most honest. Time passed again, as it always does. Slowly, imperfectly. Ethan and Claire learned how to co-parent with grace instead of tension. They spoke openly when their daughter needed reassurance. They stopped pretending the past didn't exist and started respecting it for what it was, a chapter that shaped them. Ethan didn't chase what was gone, and Claire didn't reopen wounds that needed to heal. Instead, both of them grew. Claire saved slowly and, months later, bought herself a piece of jewelry for no reason other than joy. Ethan learned that success meant nothing if it wasn't paired with emotional courage. The past never truly disappears. It waits quietly, reminding us of who we were and who we still might become. But healing happens when we face it honestly, learn from it, and choose better moving forward. If this story resonated with you, if it reminded you of love lost, lessons learned, or second chances earned, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this exist to remind us that growth is messy, healing is slow, and the bravest thing we can do is choose honesty over comfort. Some feelings never disappear, but they don't have to control us. And sometimes, the greatest redemption isn't getting someone back, it's becoming someone better.